Hello, and welcome to Five Things in 15 Minutes, my weekly show where I bring good vibes to DEI. That is, good vibes to diversity, equity, and inclusion and corporate social responsibility. What I've found is that there are lots of stories about what's going wrong in the world, lots of negative data. But there are also a lot of really cool things happening. And that's what I like to focus on. I like to lead from a place of inspiration rather than fear. My hope is that someone will try some of these stories within their own organization. So each week, I write a newsletter that goes out on Saturday mornings, sharing these good stories. And then on Monday, I'm joined by a special guest to talk about these good vibes. This week, I am joined by Patti Flynn. Patti, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Patti Flynn. I use she, her pronouns, and I live in Chicago, and I work with you.
We do. You do. And I'm really grateful that you do. You're an awesome part of the team.
Thank
All
you.
right. So I started this week by talking a little bit about connecting with folks who are different from you. And I shared a story about how I made a new friend last week who used to be an undercover Al Qaeda or he was an undercover operative from the US government working undercover within Al Qaeda. It was an amazing story. He's a really cool guy, and I was wondering who's the most interesting person you've met recently.
Me?
Yeah,
Oh
I know
gosh.
you talk to all sorts of different people, and lots of people who are different from you.
Yeah, I met a couple of people riding this weekend. One of which is on my team, my cycling team, and just the person who's not. He is. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. He's the kind of person that gives a whole bunch of himself to help further diversify cycling by working with this organization that gets bikes in the hands of kids who are underrepresented in cycling. And so I've seen him. So it's I'm kind of a cheating here because I've seen him, but I really met and really met him this weekend. It was really, really cool.
That's awesome. I mean, what are some of the things that you have been most surprised by when you've talked to people who are a lot different from you?
Um, I think that, as it turns out, we're all people, and it's pretty amazing when you are able to just talk to somebody and one on one and talk like human beings that you can find points of um, similarities or things that you can connect on that allow us um, to interact with each other in respectful ways.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and I think sometimes we get in our head about it. You know, we sort of think, "Oh, I'm gonna say something wrong. I'm going to accidentally offend someone, or I don't even know
Yeah,
where to begin, or we don't have anything in common," and there's sort of a snap judgment about it. Um, but and so because of that, we often don't put ourselves in situations where we can meet someone who
right.
is really different from us, or we choose, even when we are in those spaces where there are people different from us, we choose not either consciously or subconsciously not to start those conversations.
Right.
So I personally was grateful for an experience last week with my heroic public speaking community where I got to talk to all different kinds of people who have wildly different experiences than I do, and it's a gift.
Yeah, it is. It is.
All right, so let's get into those good vibes from this week. So we're going to talk about Active Campaign, which is a great company based here in Chicago, and it's now offering its staff, its employees, discounts on a breast milk delivery service because new parents are often back on the road traveling for work, and if they are nursing, then it can mean that there are challenges nursing while traveling. And so Milk Stork is a benefits company that provides free shipping or shipping for these employees of breast milk or chest milk. So it's a great benefit, and I haven't seen this talked about in a while. I did write about it in my book, Inclusive 360, but I haven't talked about it in a while. But Active Campaign is now offering this. Good news.
Yeah, it really is. It helps eliminate some of that. In the article, it was talking about the choice. You know, do I push for my career advancement, or am I forced to hold myself back
Right.
because of this need? And I guess it eliminates that. I need to put my kid on formula. So
Yes.
like it's really beautiful. I didn't know that this existed. It's really really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. Absolutely. And I think it's a fantastic company because, well, first of all, there are so many things I don't even think about, right? I've never had this experience personally in any capacity, yet that just shows my own limitations and my own gaps in my lived experiences. And to have the creativity to even offer this as a benefit, I just think it creates all sorts of wins. It's just
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah,
All right. Next up is Salesforce, which has long offered transgender inclusive healthcare coverage, has some other new benefits. So they are now including wardrobe reimbursement, partial payment for the fees with changing government IDs, and specialized mental health services and counseling specifically for their trans employees. So beyond just sort of the basic trans benefits like health coverage or really good health coverage, it takes things a little bit deeper.
yeah. It's really good. The one thing that you didn't mention was the gender affirmation medical reimbursement. And so there are a lot of expenses that come along with being trans. I know, as a trans woman, that are not covered or are covered in such a way that it's impossible to actually get the coverage used, like with hair removal in particular. And so it really is unbelievable. I mean, like, even just, the wardrobe reimbursement isn't huge, but it's something like these are all things that they don't have to do. And legal fee reimbursement, it cost me $500, I think, to change my name. Maybe it was more. It was a couple years ago. And then the counseling services and this their warm line support, safe space for confidential conversations with advocates. I mean, like, these are the kind of things that are so important. I mean, not just for trans people, for everybody, really. These would be great benefits to have counseling services and those kind of things, but especially for trans employees. So I'm talking a lot on this one because I really, really, really am so happy to see this from a company like Salesforce, which I'm familiar with because I used to do some consulting with their system. So, it makes me think that maybe not all billionaires are bad.
I think Mark Benioff has done a lot of great things for the
Yeah,
world, but a lot of that has come because of pressure from employees. And
yeah,
this benefit actually came about because the LGBTQ employee resource group brought it up, right? And
yeah,
so these benefits were actually recommendations from the employee resource group. And I think it's just also demonstrates how important those groups are
right.
and how they can help organizations in a business way. I mean, this could actually drive more trans employees, right? Drive Salesforce as an attractive place to work for transgender people is what
The
I.
other the other thing I see is that this starts to set a standard that may end up going to other corporations, big
That's
corp.
right. The
And
pressure.
like, it happens that way. Big corporations do things and then it trickles down, trickle down. But um, it will influence the narrative, and it'll influence the way that other corporations work. So maybe we'll see this more often.
I think that's exactly right because Salesforce is going to be more hot destination, there's going to be
Right.
pressure from other companies to do the same, especially within the Fortune 500.
Yeah.
But for those of you who are working for smaller companies, it is not ever too small to start with this stuff. Okay, next up, good news. Karine Jean-Pierre will become the first White House press secretary who is Black and also openly LGBTQ. I don't really talk about firsts a ton on this show, but I think this is a particularly notable one.
Yes, I am very excited. I actually had the good fortune to meet, although briefly, and sit at the same table at a function for the LGBTQ Victory Fund in DC last month, with Karine, and got to watch her speak. Um, she's going to do amazing. And, like you said, don't do firsts on this, but this is really a pretty substantial moment in our history. This is the first Black press secretary. Like, it's 2022, but we have one. And so, it may change the perception.
Absolutely. Change the perception, establish her as a possibility model. I mean, think of
Yep.
all the young Black kids or the young Black women kids, or the young Black girls.
Yeah.
the,
Just
the
finding
young
that out later.
the young Black girls, the young LGBTQ folks, these are folks who might see themselves in her,
Yeah.
right? And of course, that's a lot of pressure. But being a White House press secretary is a lot of pressure to begin with.
Right.
But I think it's amazing. It really establishes this as just the possibility. There's nothing more beautiful than possibility.
Yep.
And feeling that inside. That's one of my very favorite states to be in, is the sense of wonder and possibility, right?
Yeah.
Okay, next up. Oh, Patti, the end of Roe v. Wade may be upon us, but more and more companies are doing the right thing for their employees. So Levi, I think Apple and Google, I think, came out over the weekend. The companies that are paying for their employees, Salesforce, paying for their employees to actually relocate if they happen to live in a state that is in jeopardy of losing access to abortion. A lot of other companies have offered to pay for travel for employees, including part-time and frontline employees, to travel to another state. So, it's one of those cases where we are seeing companies being more progressive than the government and filling in the gaps where there is a lack of equality. So that to me is the silver lining here. Hard to find them sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a silver lining to a very, very dark rain cloud. And I know that we talked about a couple of weeks ago about the US, I believe it was the Air Force, helping folks relocate for their trans kids. It seems like an awful lot. You would think that seeing this would indicate to the people doing this that maybe they shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
But I'm happy to see that companies are recognizing this and doing this for their employees, because these are not good times for, I know this is a good times thing, but like, I'm happy that it's being done, and it's really sad that it has to be.
Yeah, and we can say that about a lot of these stories, honestly, and that's that's reality, and that breaks my heart. But I am a silver lining seeker. So let's share the last bit of good news for this week. Is the U.S. Bank is investing heavily in Chicago's Black communities in partnership with this nonprofit called Greenwood Archer Capital. So yes, it is all focused on community development, and there are a lot of examples of this, not just with U.S. Bank, not just in Chicago. But the cool thing about this story in particular is that this new partnership is focused specifically on businesses owned by people with lower credit scores, without high collateral, without a robust financial history. In other words, people that would have a really hard time getting funding,
Right.
and they're being given a shot here.
Yeah. I mean, the those requirements have been set up at some levels intentionally to prevent folks from attaining capital in underrepresented and marginalized and minority communities. And we talked about this a while ago about, banks can offer exactly what this article talks about, to invest in communities that need that investment. And I'm really happy to see it happening. I'm hoping that it works really well. And I'm hoping that it doesn't, that there's not some horrible side that we didn't figure out, that wasn't anticipated. But it seems really good to me that, the way to help people is to invest. And this really seems like it's a positive way to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, this is exactly what equity is. It's about giving folks who don't have a fair shot, who don't have as much access, a level up, a hand up, and not a hand out, but a hand up. And I just get excited about anything that's really about not just that is actually about changing the systems and making meaningful change that can be sustainable. So there's a lot of work to do to reduce the racial wealth gap. So hopefully this will put a dent in it in Chicago's South and West sides in particular.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me today, Patti. Thank you all for watching 5 Things in 15 Minutes. Good vibes in DEI. And if you don't already subscribe, you can subscribe at 5thingsdei.com. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.